Hello, I'm Alma Angeles, and you're watching Eagle News International. Good evening, CJ.
Good evening, Alma, and good evening to everyone joining the broadcast. Here are tonight's headlines.
Hollywood star Alec Baldwin says his heart is broken after he fatally shot a cinematographer with a prop gun he had been told was safe on the set of a Western about an accidental killing.
The Department of Health on Thursday said the Delta AY4.2 COVID subvariant has not been detected in the country yet.
Indeed, we are seeing some promising results.
And the EMA says during a press conference that mixing and matching COVID-19 booster vaccines may give stronger response, and gives updates on the Pfizer-BioNTech COVID vaccine for young children.
What we did.
And on its maiden flight with a bird's eye view of the Toronto's glistening skyline as it glides over apartments, shops, and office towers, a drone is carrying a precious cargo, human lungs for transplant. The drone delivery of transplanted lungs marked a global first.
You know.
First in our news, Hollywood star Alec Baldwin said Friday his heart is broken after he fatally shot a cinematographer with a prop gun he had been told was safe on the set of a Western about an accidental killing. There are no words to convey my shock and sadness regarding the tragic accident that took the life of Helena Hutchins, a wife, mother, and deeply admired colleague of ours. Baldwin tweeted, "My heart is broken for her husband, their son, and all who knew and loved Helena," wrote Baldwin. The U.S. actor and producer said he was fully cooperating with a police investigation as law enforcement officials carried out a search warrant and reports emerged of allegedly dangerous working conditions on the set. Baldwin had been handed a prop gun by an assistant director who did not know it was loaded and shouted "cold gun," meaning it contained no live ammunition, according to a search warrant seen by the Santa Fe Reporter. Performing a rehearsal scene, Baldwin fired the gun, striking Hutchins in the chest and the film's director in the shoulder. Hutchins, 42, was transported to hospital by helicopter but died of her wounds. Santa Fe Sheriff spokesman Juan Rios told AFP that Baldwin came in voluntarily and provided statements and answered their questions, but no charges have been filed and no arrests made. Meanwhile, the Los Angeles Times reported that around 6 crew members had walked off the set before the shooting to protest working conditions, including long hours. It also said Hutchins was among those who had called for safer working conditions. There had been at least 3 prop gun misfires prior to the fatal accident, according to the LA Times report, citing anonymous crew members who were on the set. Movie sets usually have stringent rules over the use of drop weapons, but accidents have happened. Most famously, Brandon Lee, the son of martial arts legend Bruce Lee, died during the filming of The Crown after being shot by a gun that was supposed to be fire blanks. Brandon's sister Shannon Lee wrote on Twitter, "No one should ever be killed by a gun on a film set."
Israel designated 6 leading Palestinian civil society groups as outlawed terrorist organizations Friday in a move swiftly condemned by the Palestinian Authority and international human rights groups. The Israeli Defense Ministry accused the 6 groups of working covertly with the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, or PFLP, a leftist militant group which pioneered plane hijackings in the 1970s to highlight the Palestinian cause and is blacklisted by several Western governments. According to the ministry, the 6 groups constitute a network of organizations active undercover on the international front on behalf of the PFLP to support its activity and further its goals. The Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights in Palestinian territories said it was alarmed by the move, accusing accusing Israel of a long stigmatizing campaign against these and other organizations that damaged their ability to deliver on their crucial work.
In other news, the leader of a Haitian gang who kidnapped a group of North Americans over the weekend has threatened to execute them, according to a video seen by AFP. The footage, shot Wednesday but released on Thursday on social media, shown Wilson Joseph wearing a suit and surrounded by armed men in front of coffins containing the bodies of 5 members of his gang. Take a look.
Note here is obviously we are working around the clock to bring these people home. They're U.S. citizens, and there has been targeting over the course of the last few years of U.S. citizens in Haiti and other countries too. It's not the only country, but since we're talking about Haiti, and for kidnapping for ransom. That is one of the reasons that the State Department issued the warning they did in August about the risk of kidnapping for ransom.
On Saturday, the group of 17 U.S. and Canadian missionaries and their children were kidnapped in broad daylight while on a visit to an orphanage in the heart of an area in eastern Port-au-Prince, which is under the control of the gang. The Ohio-based Christian and Ministries, to which the abducted missionaries belong, said the group included 12 adults aged 18 to 48, along with 5 children aged 8 months, 3, 6, 13, and 15. The U.S. has advised Americans not to travel to Haiti, in particular due to kidnappings they say regularly include American citizens.
Police in England said on Friday they had arrested 3 men after several days of increasing alarm at reports that revelers had been injected with needles at nightclubs. Young women and men, mostly students, have said they believe they were injected with drug-filled syringes at clubs and bars. Women have for years been warned to be alert to their drinks being spiked with alcohol or sedative drugs while on nights out. Long-standing fears about the safety of women in public places have also come under renewed focus after the high-profile murder of a London woman by a rogue police officer earlier this year. Police have said there had been around 140 confirmed reports of drink spiking in September and October, and 24 reports of injection. Victims have reported passing out or feeling woozy shortly after experiencing a sharp pain and later finding apparent puncture marks on their skin. Their accounts were discussed by the House of Commons Home Affairs Committee on Wednesday, with its chair Yvette Cooper describing the alleged attacks as vile crimes. Some medics and drugs experts, though, have questioned what powerful sedative substance could be administered in such a way without the victim immediately noticing.
The Canary Islands continues. It has prompted another round of evacuations. According to PEVOLCA, the committee managing the emergency response, 500 people had to leave their homes overnight as molten lava moved deeper into the coastal town of Taza Corte. After a month of continual eruptions accompanied by minor earthquakes, geologists say they have no idea how much longer it will last. The volcano was putting out some 10,000 tons of sulfur dioxide emissions per day, and to start being considered extinct, it should emit 400 tons or less per day, according to David Calvo, an expert with the Involcan Volcanology Institute. The head of the regional government of the archipelago, Angel Victor Torres, said nobody can say that this is nearing the end. This is the Atlantic Islands' 3rd volcanic eruption in a century, the last one taking place in 1971.
Top crude exporter Saudi Arabia will aim to achieve net zero carbon emissions by 2060. Its de facto ruler said Saturday, days before the COP26 Global Climate Summit. Take a look.
استهداف المملكة العربية السعودية للوصول للحياد الصفري في عام 2060 من خلال نهج الاقتصاد الدائم للكربون بما يتوافق مع خطط المملكة التنموية وتمكين تنويعها الاقتصادي وبما يتماشى مع خط الأساس المتحرك ويحفظ دور المملكة الريادي في تعزيز أمن واستقرار أسواق الطاقة العالمية في ظل نضج وتوفير التقنيات اللازمة لإدارة وتخفيض الانبعاثات.
The kingdom, one of the world's biggest polluters, said it would also join a global effort to cut methane emissions by 30% by 2030. The announcements come a day after UN Chief Antonio Guterres said the current climate situation was a one-way ticket for disaster, stressing the need to avoid a failure at the COP26 climate conference in Glasgow. Held between October 31st and November 12th, the gathering in the Scottish city is seen as a crucial step in setting worldwide emissions targets to slow global warming. In March, Saudi Arabia unveiled a sweeping campaign to tackle climate change and reduce carbon emissions, including a plan to plant billions of trees in the coming decades. Saudi Arabia currently draws on oil and natural gas to both meet its own fast-growing power demand and desalinate its water, which consumes huge quantities of oil daily.
With vast amounts of cheap and renewable electricity, mostly generated from hydro dams, Quebec is seeing more and more tech giants setting up power-hungry data centers in the Canadian province amid soaring demand for cloud services. Take a look.
Ici, parce que c'est pas cher, mais surtout parce que c'est une énergie qui est renouvelable. 99% de l'électricité au Québec, c'est de l'énergie qui est...
Les raisons prédominantes ont vraiment été la proximité d'une source d'énergie qui soit donc abondante, qui soit verte, qui soit constante, le fait qu'il y avait de l'espace, le fait qu'il y avait cette usine d'aluminerie qui nous a permis donc de nous implanter facilement. Les conditions étaient réunies.
50 data centers currently operate in Quebec, up from 39 just 2 years ago. Many are owned by multinationals, such as Amazon, the global leader in cloud computing, through its subsidiary Amazon Web Services, as well as Microsoft, Google, and IBM. Quebec's capacity is still small compared to rivals. Data Center Alley in Ashburn, Virginia, hosts 70% of all global internet traffic, while the Île-de-France region surrounding Paris boasts 120 data centers. But the Canadian province is hoping to woo more companies in this space. Google is increasing its footprint in Quebec with the purchase of about 60 hectares, on which it will build its first local data center for 735 million Canadian dollars. Microsoft, also looking to expand, has purchased land in Quebec City. French cloud computing pioneer OHB Cloud, meanwhile, set up one of its 32 data centers in Quebec in 2012.
South Korean firm Nplus Company Limited is investing 5 billion pesos in the Philippines to put up its electric vehicle manufacturing facility, according to the Philippine Economic Zone Authority on Friday. Now, PEZA Director General Charito Plaza said Nplus will be the first e-vehicle manufacturer in the PEZA Ecozone. Nplus e-vehicle factory here will be located in Negros Occidental. Its operation will involve the manufacturing of electric cars and electric jeepneys. Plaza and Nplus Chief Executive Officer and Chair Young Yong-an signed a memorandum of understanding on Wednesday for the joint venture between PEZA and the Korean firm. While the Korean firm is investing 5 billion pesos for the factory, PEZA will be providing a 30-hectare land to link Prospect Industries to Nplus for joint investment ventures and other related agreements for eligible projects of PEZA. Nplus is a manufacturer of fire trucks and firefighting equipment and is now expanding to e-vehicles.
And the news continues here on Eagle News. CJ and I will be right after this.
Karamihan sa ating mga Pilipino, mahilig talaga sa snacks, ano?
Kasi yun ang hinahanap ng bibig.
Pero yun lang ang pinakalibangan namin.
Aba meron nang nauuso na healthy version ng mga ito.
Kangkong to, gulay to, nagugustuhan rin kasi it's healthy for the children.
Kung may Korean craze ngayon sa Pilipinas, may craze rin para sa banana chips natin doon sa Korea.
Unique siya kasi madami ding health benefits. At pasok sa panlasa nating mga Pinoy.
Ito na ang inyong starter pack for a healthy snack. Ako po, si Robin Padilla, at ito po ang ulat. Kaagapay sa hanap buhay.
Iba't ibang sakuna at kalamidad ang nararanasan ng bansa. Kapag may banta ng panganib, kailangang maging alerto at kung kailangang lumikas ay magtungo sa ligtas na lugar. Bilang paghahanda sa mga ganitong pagkakataon, mahalaga na may gobag na dadalhin ang pamilya. Narito ang dapat na nilalaman ng gobag ng isang pamilyang handa. Mahalagang dokumento sa selyadong lalagyan, flashlight, kandila, posporo at silbato, radyo na may bago at ekstrang baterya, first aid kit kasama ang panlunas sa lagnat, LBM, sugat at iba pa. Ang mga gamot na regular na iniinom ng pamilya. Magagamit para sa mga sanggol, bata, matatanda at may kapansanan, pera at mga barya. Pagkain na madaling ihanda, di na kailangang lutuin at sapat para sa 3 araw. Inuming tubig sa saradong lalagyan at sapat para sa 3 araw. Telepono, power bank at charger. Lupit, lumang dyaryo, matitibay na lalagyan, damit, kapote, bota at mga sanitary supplies, sleeping bag o banig at mga kumot. Suriin ang mga laman ng gobag kada 3 buwan at palitan ang mga laman nito na malapit ng masira. Ilagay ang gobag sa lugar na madali itong makita at makuha sa oras ng sakuna.
Welcome back. The Department of Health said the Delta AY.4.2 COVID subvariant has not been detected in the country. Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Berhere also assured the public that biosurveillance activities in the country have been closely monitoring the sublineages of the Delta variant in the country. Take a look.
Actually, ito po ay sublineage ng Delta variant, no? So ibig sabihin, kasama pa rin sa pamilya ng Delta variant. Ngayon po ang sinasabi ng mga eksperto, patuloy na pinag-aaralan ng epekto nito sa transmission at saka syempre dun sa vaccine efficacy. Hanggang sa ngayon, wala pa hong completed evidence and it is not classified yet as a variant of concern or variant of interest. So patuloy po tayo magmomonitor. Sa ngayon po, wala pa po tayong nadidetect na ganitong sublineage ng Delta variant dito sa ating bansa. Although may nakikita na po tayo ng mga sublineages ng Delta variant, pero wala pa po itong specific na sinasabi na nangyayari ngayon sa UK at sa iba pa pong mga bansa. So pag-aaralan pa po mas maigi, ang tanging atin pong abiso sa ating mga kababayan, hindi kailangan magpanik, patuloy lang ipatupad ang minimum public health standards. Dahil kahit anong merong variant naman, epektibo pa rin po ito mga ginagawa natin mga paraan dito sa ating bansa.
British health officials on Friday said they were formally looking into a subvariant of the Delta strain of the coronavirus after it was seen in a growing number of cases. The UK Health Security Agency, or UKHSA, a public health protection body, said AY.4.2, which was last week seen in 6% of cases, had been designated as a variant under investigation, but not yet a variant of concern. The UKHA said the Delta variant was overwhelmingly dominant in Britain, accounting for 99.8% of all cases. But as of October 20, there have been 15,120 cases of the subvariant AY.4.2, which was detected in July 1st, as coronavirus restrictions were lifted across the country. The UKHA said while evidence is still emerging so far, it does not appear this variant causes more severe disease or renders the vaccines currently deployed any less effective.
Peru, which has the world's highest COVID-19 death rate per capita, has surpassed 200,000 deaths from the coronavirus, according to the Health Ministry today. The ministry announced 25 new deaths over the previous 24 hours, taking the South American country over the symbolic threshold with 200,003 deaths since the pandemic started in March 2020. The Andean country of 33 million has recorded 2.2 million infections. With 6,055 deaths per million population, Peru's COVID mortality rate is the highest in the world, according to an AFP count based on official data. The news comes at a time of falling daily cases and deaths attributed to the increase in vaccinations, although authorities remain worried about a potential new wave of infections due to the Delta variant that is now predominant in the country. Before the pandemic, Peru enjoyed one of the most dynamic economies in the region, but in 2020, GDP fell by 11% and more than 2.1 million people lost their jobs as Peru entered recession.
Vietnam plans to reopen the resort island of Phu Quoc to vaccinated foreign visitors in late November, according to authorities, as the country looks to reboot its tourism industry after almost 2 years of closure. Phu Quoc, which lies around 10 kilometers or 6 miles off Cambodia in the Gulf of Thailand, boasts white sand beaches and crystal clear waters, as well as mountains and thick jungle. It attracted around 670,000 visitors and earned more than $18 billion from international arrivals in 2019, with authorities hoping to turn it into a tourist mecca in the style of Thailand's Phuket or Indonesia's Bali. From November 20, charter flights for international travelers with vaccine passports will be welcomed to the island. Tourists will need to show vaccine certificates together with a negative COVID-19 test result before being allowed in. A previous plan to open Phu Quoc to international visitors in October was abandoned due to low vaccination rates among residents.
Meanwhile, the EMA says during a press conference that mixing and matching COVID-19 booster vaccines may give stronger response. They also give an update on the Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine for young children. Take a look.
Indeed, we are seeing some promising results from studies that confirm that this approach would trigger with certain vaccine combination a strong immune response than when the same vaccine is used for an additional shot. But overall, it seems that this strategy is something that all type of vaccine could be benefiting from. And indeed, different combination would still be extremely valuable. The EMA has started evaluating an application to extend the use of Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine Comirnaty to young children aged 5 to 11. The application is based on a dose which is 3 times lower than the approved dose for adults. The proposed dosage schedule is to maintain 2 doses given at least 3 weeks apart. Our recommendation is expected within approximately 2 months. Following the recommendation for a booster dose for Comirnaty, a conclusion on a booster dose for Spikevax to be administered in people 12 years of age 6 months after the second dose is expected next week on the 25th of October.
Only a trickle of Burundians have turned up to get a COVID-19 shot since the country launched a vaccination drive this week, one of the last in the world to do so. Burundi's leaders previously played down the severity of the coronavirus pandemic, and officials have said they would not conduct awareness campaigns about the vaccines and that the government would not take responsibility for any side effects.
Ne pose aucun problème. Et puis, je ne pense pas qu'on devrait avoir cet engouement pour le vaccin anti-Covid lorsqu'on n'a pas manifesté cela avec Ebola ou avec d'autres calamités, je dirais, sanitaires sur le continent. Bon, de toute façon.
But it's concerning that only a third of the doses pledged by the end of 2021 have been received. the pace of vaccination in Africa must rise by over 7 times to around 150 million per month on average to meet the global goal of vaccinating 70% of every country's population. Actions speak far louder than words. Global coordination mechanisms are needed to bring together vaccine-producing nations, manufacturers, international organizations, and other stakeholders to promote transparency on vaccine delivery schedules and sharing of other key critical information.
In a change of heart, Burundi's government only recently agreed to accept vaccine doses from abroad and last week received a donation of 500,000 doses of China's Sinopharm drug. Only 2 nations have yet to launch COVID vaccination drives, the largely closed-off countries of Eritrea and North Korea. According to figures reported to the World Health Organization, Burundi has registered a total of 19,730 COVID cases with 14 deaths.
Meanwhile, former U.S. President Bill Clinton thanked the people for the outpouring support he received during a recent stay in the hospital. Clinton, 75 years old, was released from a California hospital after spending 5 nights in treatment for an infection. The New York Times, quoting an aide, reported Clinton developed a urinary tract infection that turned into sepsis. Take a look.
Hi, everyone. I was so touched by the outpouring of support I received during my stay in the hospital. Thanks so much. I'd also like to thank the doctors and nurses at UC Irvine Medical Center for the absolutely wonderful care they gave me over the last 7 days. Special thanks to Dr. Amin, who oversaw my care and kept my family informed along the way. I'm really glad to be back home. I'm doing great, enjoying this beautiful fall weather. I'm on the road to recovery, but I want to remind everyone out there, take the time to listen to your bodies and care for yourselves. We all have work to do, and each of us has an important role to play in life and in the immediate future. I, for one, am going to do my best to be around to keep doing the most good I can.
Londoners react to the news that 95-year-old Queen Elizabeth II has spent a night in hospital after undergoing tests as questions mount over her health. She returned from King Edward VII's hospital in central London to her Windsor Castle home west of the capital and was said to be in good spirits. Take a look.
Her age of life, it's quite normal for them to be able to do the checks that they've said that they've been doing. The fact that they've released her so quickly is really positive, you know, that she's back at home, she's recovering, and that everything's fine.
She is tough, right? I was flying over yesterday and we got the news just as we were getting on the plane, and my wife pointed it out to me and said she's 95 and she's resisting going to the hospital. That's a tough broad, as we say in America.
I think she's extremely healthy. I mean, she's still riding horses, she's still going out, she's very independent. So I think, you know, she's a very strong lady. She's got a lot of support around her, but equally so, you know, 95. She's now with a walking stick as well, so you can tell she's getting a little bit fragile, but still she's very, very strong.
The family has got genes where, you know, her mother was very old and she died over 100. You know, but I mean, people like that have a very easy life, don't they? and they have very good food and live in luxury. So probably that's one of the reasons why they live so long.
Eagle News will be back with more stories. Don't go away.
Mula noon hanggang ngayon, gabay natin ang MTRCB ratings sa matalino at responsableng panonood. Sa tamang pagsunod sa MTRCB ratings, ginagawa nating ligtas at makabuluhan ang panonood ng bawat miyembro ng pamilyang Pilipino. Lumipas man ang panahon, hanggang may pamilyang Pilipino, andyan ang MTRCB.
Tayong mga Filipino, likas na palabati. Sanay rin tayong makipagkamay. Pero dahil na rin sa COVID pandemic, isinusulong ang pagbati na hindi na kailangan pang makipagkamay. Ang pambansang pagbati. Ito ay ang pagdampi ng kanang palad sa gitnang bahagi ng dibdib, kasabay ng bahagyang pagyukod ng ulo o paibabang tingin, at pagsambit ng mga salitang nagpapahayag ng pagbati, paggalang o pagpupugay. Pagkatapos nito ay ang pag-angat ng ulo ng nakangiti at nakatingin sa mata ng binabati. Pambansang pagbati, pagpapakita ng paggalang, kababaang loob at pagiging sensero nating mga Filipino.
Events happen around us all the time, in our community, in our country, around the world. Events that affect people, move communities, or simply inspire us. Interesting events that people need to know. In these interesting times, we continue to be a competent partner in delivering news about these events. Fast, accurate, balanced. Eagle News, because we live in interesting times.
Welcome back to the news. Anthony Davis and Dwight Howard had to be separated by teammates as the Los Angeles Lakers slumped to an 8th straight defeat with a 115-105 loss to the Phoenix Suns on Friday. After losing all 6 of their preseason games, the Lakers followed up their season opening reverse to Golden State on Tuesday with another disjointed performance at the Staples Center. And the tensions within the Lakers' new look roster boiled over in the first half when Davis and Howard squared up to each other on the bench during a timeout. Several Lakers players, including LeBron James, scrambled to separate the duo, with Davis gesticulating as he was hustled away. Coach Frank Vogel later played down the altercation, which he said had arisen from a miscommunication on court. Howard later told reporters he had settled his differences with Davis. Elsewhere, Friday, Kevin Durant scored a 29-point triple-double as the Brooklyn Nets punished a late collapse by the Philadelphia 76ers to bag their opening win of the season. The Nets appeared to be poised for a second straight loss following their opening defeat to Milwaukee after the Sixers pulled into a 108-98 lead with just 5 minutes remaining in the fourth quarter. But the Sixers' hopes of extending their unbeaten start to the season evaporated as their shooting accuracy deserted them in the closing stages. The Sixers made 10 misses as the Nets turned a 10-point deficit into a 114-109 win with a 16-1 scoring run.
And the news continues here on Eagle News. We'll be right back.
Isa ang mga kooperatiba sa mga naapektuhan ng COVID-19 crisis. Sa isang survey ng Cooperative Development Authority, nangangamba ang mga kooperatiba sa pagbaba ng kanilang kita dahil sa mahirap na transportasyon at komunikasyon. And one of the most important questions is, how can they transition to digitalization? In this episode, we will discuss the journey of one cooperative that remained resilient during the pandemic. Ms. Faye Visa, General Manager of the Pantukan Chess Club Multipurpose Cooperative, and Mr. Bradley Pineda of Globe Business will share their insights.
When the pandemic has opened our eyes to the many possibilities that we can do with the power of the digital,
Globe Business vision to equip cooperatives with digital solutions so that they can become a kooperatibang matatag.
All these in this episode of Open for Business.
Welcome back. On its maiden flight with a bird's eye view of the Toronto's glistening skyline as it glides over apartments, shops, and office towers, a drone is carrying a precious cargo, human lungs for transplant. The drone delivery of transplant lungs marked a global first. Take a look.
What we did was, for the first time, delivered a donor lung for transplant by drone. And the important achievement here was the ability to fly a drone in a highly populated downtown area. It is significant, and you know, some may say, well, you know, it's a very short distance, so what's the point? But what we've done is, in that very short distance, we've proven a very important point, that it's possible to do this safely. And if you could fly a drone in the middle of downtown Toronto, that means you can then send a drone across the continent to bring an organ back to our hospital. So it's an important first step.
The 15.5 kilogram or 34-pound carbon fiber UNMA or unmanned electric drone purpose-built by Quebec-based Uniter Bioelectrics flew just 1.2 kilometers or 0.75 miles from Toronto Western Hospital on the city's west side to the roof of the downtown Toronto General Hospital. The drone carried a refrigerated black container which maintains the organ's thermal parameters so that the organ is viable for transplantation, according to drone engineer Michael Cardinal of the Uniter Bioelectronics. In the event of a failure during flight, a ballistic parachute was also installed that would deploy and gently bring the drone and organs package to the ground.
A Netflix-funded anime academy in Tokyo trains the next generation of cartoon artists as global demand for the genre soars. Japan is facing a shortage of skilled animators, in part because most face years toiling in low-paying jobs to learn the ropes, meaning much of the painstaking frame-by-frame drawing work is outsourced overseas.
で海外にこう外注っていう形でこう出すようになってきてるんですね、日本って。で、日本の人でこう動画をやるかどうかっていうと、動画は安くて賃金が安く、仕事もきつく、こうなんとなく地位も低い。
そういう話を聞いてると、もう全然ウィットなアニメーター塾はお金もいただいて、さらに研修も長く取ってもらってるので、すごい勉強もさせてもらいつつ、ちゃんとお金が出てる、生活できるっていうところがなんか安心してこっち勉強しようみたいな感じになれるところがよかったっていうか
NASA is aiming to launch its uncrewed lunar mission Artemis 1 in February next year, according to the Space Agency on Friday, the first step in America's plan to return humans to the moon. Take a look. Now, the agency had initially hoped to launch the test flight by the end of this year, with astronauts set to walk on the moon by 2024. It achieved a major milestone on Wednesday when it stacked the Orion Crew capsule atop its Space Launch System mega rocket, which now stands 322 feet or 98 meters tall inside the Vehicle Assembly Building at the NASA Kennedy Space Center in Florida. After further tests, it will be wheeled out to the launch pad for a wet dress rehearsal in January, with the first window for launch opening in February. NASA will also deploy small satellites known as CubeSats to perform experiments and technology demonstrations. Artemis 2 is then scheduled for 2023 and Artemis 3 for the following year, when humans will walk on the moon for the first time since 1972. Both missions are now likely to be pushed back, however. The space agency is seeking to establish a sustainable presence on the moon, as well as use the lessons it learns to plan a crewed trip to Mars in the 2030s.
'2030s is not that far away.
I know, time flies fast.
Right. And that's it for tonight's broadcast. Thank you so much for joining us this whole week. I am CJ Hero. The news continues on Monday.
And at the end of the day, there remains so much more to be grateful for. We'll see you back Monday. Have a great weekend. I'm Alpha Angeles, and
we live in interesting times.
Ngayon, panahon ng pandemya, kailangan nating ingatan ang ating sarili sa lumalaganap na COVID-19 infection. Kaya maibabahagi ako sa inyo na makakatulong upang pataasin ang ating immune system. At dahil lockdown, hindi na kailangan lumabas pa ng bahay. Ito ay makikita lamang natin sa ating bakuran. Ang mga halamang gulay at prutas na makakatulong para pataasin ang ating immune system. Tara, samahan niyo akong mamitas ng mga ito. Ito po ang sili. Nakatutulong ang sili sa digestive health and metabolism. Nilalabanan ang cancer, fungal infection, sakit ng ulo, sipon at trangkaso. Makatutulong din upang makaiwas sa type 2 diabetes. Ito naman ang talong. Bukod sa nakatutulong ito sa ating digestion, ang talong ay good for the heart na kapag papatibay ito ng mga buto,
nakatutulong para maayos ang ating pagtulog at nakatutulong din sa pag-iwas sa cancer. Nagbibigay din ang talong ng vitamins at minerals na ating kailangan. Ito naman ang malunggay. Hindi lang pang tinola ang malunggay. Ito ay halamang gamot na mabisang panlaban sa maraming sakit, nakapagpapakinis ng balat, nakapagpapalusog ng buhok, pampatibay ng buto, tumutulong sa atay, pangpaiwas sa cancer. At dahil mahusay panlaban sa bakterya, makatutulong sa masakit ang tiyan. Papaya. Alam ba ninyo na ang masarap na prutas na ito ay nakapagpapalakas ng ating immune system? Puno ito ng vitamin A, tumutulong sa ating digestive system, anti-aging, nakatutulong sa weight management, at nakapagpapalusog ng ating atay. Kalamansi. Ito ay siksik sa vitamin C, kaya napakahusay mag-boost ng ating immune system. Mainam din ang kalamansi sa mga nais magbawas ng timbang. Gawin itong juice at napakasarap na thirst quencher.
Sana ay may natutuhan kayo sa aking naibahagi upang pataasin ang immune system ng ating pangangatawan. Ito ay ilan lamang na makikita natin sa ating mga bakuran. Palagi tayong mag-ingat at manalangin upang gabayan tayo ng ating Panginoon Diyos na malayo sa anumang sakuna gaya ng COVID-19 virus sa bansa. Hanggang sa muli, mula sa Garden City of Lights, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, ako po si Alfred Balmes. We live in interesting times.
Hi guys! Ako nga pala si Dan Delgado at abangan niyo po ako bilang guest performer sa Letters and Music sa darating na linggo, October 24, 1 to 2 p.m. Siyempre, dito lang yan sa Net 25. See you po!
Ano man ang iyong mithiin, maaasahan mo ako. Matinding pagsubok may danasin, pagbangon ay karamay ako. Noon pa may itinuring, di ka na iba sa akin. Tayo na sa ating pagsulong, pangarap natin abutin. Ano man ang adhikain, katuwang mo ay ako pa rin. Tuwid at mabuting ayunin, ipagmamalaki natin. Ganda ng ating kultura, sinin natin at musika. Kailan may tatangkilikin, iisang ating damdamin. Isa tayo sa bawat hapangin, isa tayo tuwing may abutin. Di ba't noon pa man, alam mo yan since day one, ikaw ako tayo, we are one. man ating lakbayin, ako pa rin ang kapiling sa paglipad, sa pagtawid dagat. Ako pa rin ang kaakibat. Saan man tayo abuti, katapatan isulong natin, dakila nating hangarin, itataguyod diringgin. Isa tayo sa bawat hakbangin, isa tayo tuwing may abutin. Di ba't noon pa man, alam mo yan since day one, ikaw ako tayo, we are one. Tagumpay natin, tiyak nakakamtin, panalangin natin, tunay na diringgin. Di ba noon pa man, alam mo yan since day one, ikaw ako tayo, we are one. Ikaw ako tayo, we are
To everyone that is working on the front lines as we battle this virus, thank you. Thank you for risking your health to make sure we are safe. You went to work for us, we'll stay home for you.
Thank you to those in the medical field, the shipping industry, sanitation and waste management workers, and other essential workers and first responders. You sacrifice your well-being for us, and for that, we are extremely grateful. You went to work for us. We will stay home for you.
To all the frontliners out there, we will never know how you're feeling as individuals as you risk your lives on a daily. But do know that we appreciate y'all's sacrifices. Let's hope and pray together that this pandemic will be over sooner than later so that we can all be back to normalcy. You went to work for us, we will stay home for you.
Hello, my name is Aaron Abin, and I'm a resident of Gaithersburg, Maryland. And this is just a quick greeting to all of the first responders out there who are helping out with this COVID-19 pandemic. So I know that a lot of you guys are spending lots of time away from your families, risking your own health, and spending lots of effort in order to assist those who are being affected by this pandemic. And I'd like to thank you for all this effort that you're putting in. And even though a lot of us are currently off work, or in my case, off school, you guys are still working hard. Thank you for going to work for us, and because of that, we'll stay home for you.
To all our frontliners in this pandemic, we would like to thank you all for your hard work. We know it's not easy, yet you show up every day to help save lives. Thank you all so much. You went to work for us, we will stay home for you.
Hi, I'm Jane Kathleen Gregorio from Corpus Christi, Texas. And to all of our first responders, whether you're there saving lives or keeping the world running, or even just helping at the grocery checkout stand, in whatever capacity that you help, we appreciate everything that you're doing, because every single day you are stepping out the door, you're putting yourself at risk for the purpose of helping your community and even your nation. And so while you go to work, we'll stay home for you. We'll be right here waiting for you.
This is a message from our family to all the frontliners that are there facing the COVID-19 pandemic, all the doctors, nurses, and EMTs that are working so hard and fighting for us. We just want to say from our family, thank you. And we hope that you stay safe and that every single shift you're able to go back home safely to your families. That's why we want to do our part, which is a small part. But we want to tell you this. We promise that
you go to work for us, and we will stay home for you.
Hi, we just want to take a moment to thank all the frontliners out there, the medical workers, doctors, nurses, police officers, any of the essential employees out there.
We thank you for continuing to do the work that you do, and because of you, we are safe and hopeful.
You are all so brave, and we really appreciate the work that you guys are doing.
And because you went to work for us, we will stay home for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Social and physical distancing, along with self-isolation when needed, are crucial to lessen the spread of the COVID-19 virus. That's what the experts are saying. That's what the local governments are saying. So let's listen to them. Let's listen to all the frontliners who tell us to stay home as they continue to go to work and face exposure. There's only so many of them. So let's stand united with and not against them in fighting the real enemy. From Eagle Broadcasting Corporation, we extend our most sincerest thanks to all of the frontliners around the world for your sacrifice and hard work. Continue to go to work for us, and we will continue to stay home for you.
This is Net 25, a commercial UHF television station owned and operated by the Eagle Broadcasting Corporation, transmitting on a 50 kilowatt output with NTC permit number BSD-0184-2020-0452, authorizing this station to operate until July 12, 2023. Net 25 studios and transmitter are located at number 25 Central Avenue, New Era, Quezon City. Net 25 is headed by the following personnel, duly licensed by the Professional Regulation Commission and the National Telecommunications Commission. Professional Electronics Engineer Armando C. Bonifacio Jr., PECE 838. Professional Electronics Engineer Bernard N. Pangulayan, PECE 869. Professional Electronics Engineer Randy A. Velasco, PECE 555. Electronics Engineer Erickson D. Ventura, ECE 44844. Electronics Engineer Arturo F. Pascua Jr., ECE 43934. Electronics Engineer Adrian V. Augusto, ECE 59367. With first-class radio telephone operators, Enrico V. Erbite, 94-1RTG-7204. Gracious V. Pascual, 92-3PNCR-352. Modesto V. De Vera, 96-1PNCR-18494. Frets C. Moliena, 93-1PVI-6551. This is Net 25. Now signing off. Ladies and gentlemen, the Philippine National Anthem.
Bayang magiliw, perlas ng silanganan, alam ng puso, sa titik mo'y